There is, Kathy, yes, and if you need any examples or any evidence of fan power, we are seeing it live in action, because in the last few moments we are told that Chelsea Football Club will be preparing documentation to request to be withdrawn from the European Super League. Just to repeat that breaking news, in the last few moments Chelsea will be submitting documentation to request to be withdrawn from the European Super League. Big news here for Chelsea. There's about 500 supporters here, most of which are down at the other entrance of Stamford Bridge here. They were loud earlier on, made their opinions very clear, but it seems those opinions have been heard by Chelsea, who will be reversing their decision to join the European Super League. This just a few hours after the other 14 clubs had met to decide on what they were going to do, and they agreed that there would be no allowance of those 6 clubs joining the European Super League. But they didn't close the door on Chelsea or any other club changing their minds. It seems that Chelsea have done that. One club that hasn't yet changed their mind on joining the European Super League, Manchester City, their manager Pep Guardiola spoke earlier today in his press conference to give his thoughts on the European Super League, and they weren't good.
It's not a sport when the relation between the effort and the success, the effort and reward don't exist. So it's not a sport. So it's not a sport of the success is already guaranteed. It's not a sport and it doesn't matter if you lose. That's why I said many times, I want the best competition as strong as possible. So especially the Premier League.
So all eyes now turn on to the remaining 5 that will be present, taking part in the European Super League. Also the players of those 5 clubs as well. And the Liverpool captain, Jordan Henderson, he has now decided that he will be rounding up all the other 19 Premier League captains to decide on what their position is going to be on this particular move here, because they are not happy about this either. Boris Johnson earlier today also reiterated that the government will be doing all they can do to keep all those clubs here in the Premier League. But just to repeat that breaking news here, Chelsea are currently submitting documentation to request a withdrawal from the European Super League, and unless the other 5 clubs follow suit, we might see some teams, some fans of those teams outside those grounds as well later this week.
Jordan, a lot happening on this story. Thanks very much. Well, now more details have emerged of how the Super League, if it happens, would divide the multi-billion-pound spoils of its super plan. Our business and global trade correspondent Paul McNamara has the latest.
Travelling teams are used to a rough reception, but this was Liverpool's own fans, angry that the club they love, along with 5 others from England, have signed up to a European Super League. A decision that's united almost all corners of the footballing world and politicians. At a virtual meeting with clubs and fan groups this morning, the Prime Minister promised a, quote, legislative bomb if plans proceed.
These clubs, these names, originate from famous towns and cities in our country. And I don't think it right that they should be somehow dislocated from their hometowns, home cities, taken and turned into international brands and commodities.
All options are on the table, he says, which could include a windfall tax on clubs involved and bans from other competitions. What some fans hope for, wresting power away from wealthy owners. In Germany, the 50+1 law requires clubs like Bayern Munich and their fans to hold a majority stake. Commercial investors can't own more than 49%. But here, 5 of the 6 clubs that have broken away are fully owned or have controlling shares held by foreign billionaires. Essentially, clubs here are just like any other business, to be bought and sold by anyone with enough cash. No German clubs have signed up to the Super League, but 3 Spanish ones have. And today the boss of Real Madrid made his case why, pleading poverty.
We are dying. There is less and less audience and less money. We are all dying. The big clubs, the medium ones and the small ones.
Premier League clubs Arsenal, Liverpool, Chelsea, Tottenham and the 2 Manchester Giants have already signed up to the Super League, along with 6 other heavyweights from Spain and Italy. It will be a rival to the UEFA Champions League, and founding clubs won't ever be relegated and will enjoy guaranteed incomes of at least £100 million every year. Many believed, or hoped, this was just a bargaining tool to force changes upon UEFA. But now it has been revealed Super League clubs have signed up for 23 years. Is a contract for guaranteed money for that length of time a game changer?
Well, it clearly is. We have to be clear that the players will follow the money in professional sport to a certain extent. And clearly, if these clubs have guaranteed income, then they can guarantee higher wages. So they are likely to attract the best players, even more so than they do at the moment.
Details of the money and the deal done by Arsenal and other breakaway clubs are beginning to emerge, and there is an effort being made to sugarcoat the Super League. A source close to the Super League told us that under their proposals, grassroots English football would receive more money than it ever got from the Champions League. This comes from an uncapped pot of at least 10 billion euros, and because there are more English clubs involved in the league, English football would receive the lion's share. And according to the Financial Times, to stop salaries spiralling out of control, there will be a spending limit for wages of 55% of club revenues. Typically, European clubs spend about 70 to 80% on salaries. But of course, if earnings suddenly skyrocket, which is expected for the Super League, well, 55% of these supercharged revenues could be much more than they're already spending. This would be a league supercharged by TV contracts and sponsorships. For the brutal commercial reality of football, look no further than Manchester United's most recent accounts pre-COVID when stadiums were full. In the last 3 months of 2019, it earned £33.1 million from ticket sales, but it earned more than double in commercial revenue, sponsorship deals and the like, and $65 million for TV rights. But this could have been much higher. As Man U admit themselves, broadcasting revenue was down more than a third compared to the year before, primarily due to non-participation in the UEFA Champions League.
There is still time to change your mind. Everyone makes mistakes.
Conciliation from UEFA today. Closer to home, the Premier League will decide what action for the Rogue Six by Friday. A showdown that could have ramifications for decades to come.
Now, before the reports of Chelsea possibly pulling out of the European Super League emerged, I spoke with Conservative MP Julian Knight, who is chairman of the Digital, Cultural, Media and Sports Select Committee. I began by asking him, what can the government really do to stop the planned breakaway?
Downing Street can pull several levers, including potentially clamping down on work permits. They could also introduce a windfall tax. And there's even talk about them effectively withdrawing police support or charging extra for police support when they actually have these fixtures in place.
So could you find yourself voting for a significant change in the law to achieve that end?
Well, I think that we're away from that, despite the Prime Minister's words at the moment. What I'd like to see, frankly, is football to come together at this point, to actually have a discussion and a negotiation, because this is no way to conduct business. And frankly, what we've seen in the last 48 hours has been really unedifying. And it really leaves a lot of uncertainty out there.
But the problem is that the people who've done this are not people interested in football. They're people interested in money. They are business and they know what they're doing and they're going to do it.
Well, look, I understand the serious concerns there are when it comes to fans feeling, frankly, yet again, that they're being ridden roughshod over. And I do agree that this is a really greedy enterprise in itself. However, as we've seen in the last 48 hours, there's huge public pressure on this. And frankly, the construct they've come up with, it doesn't seem either European nor a Super League. It doesn't involve France or Germany. There's no TV deal. It's quite threadbare at this time, and basically all they've done is seemingly alert and annoy large swathes of the population and also the football community.
And should stars like Tottenham's Harry Kane or Mason Mount from Chelsea, should they be banned for playing for England, for example?
Well, I certainly hope not. I would never want to see that. Someone like Harry Kane, who actually has probably turned down moves to bigger clubs in order to focus on his England career.
But that's what's being, with respect, that's what's being suggested. And they didn't, after all, join this league. Their employers joined it for them.
Yeah, well, look, the employers have a lot to answer for, and that's one of the reasons why we're going to call them in front of our committee, in order to see exactly why it is this has happened. And also there are other questions as well, John, that need to be answered by the leagues themselves at present. Why is it, for instance, that 6 of the biggest stakeholders in the Premier League feel that what they have doesn't work? So we need to know precisely why this is happening, what is going to happen, and when will it happen? And then also what we then need to do is we need to have, as the government has outlined, the full review of football in this country. Because I think this is a watershed moment. This has crystallised a lot of things, a lot of thinking about this, that effectively fans have felt for so long that they have not been taken account of. And I think it's time that we look at root and branch when it comes to football.